This episode is brought to you by HASA. Liquid is clearly better. Liquid chlorine is the highest purity, works immediately, has no added cyanuric acid or calcium, and it will leave your pool safe, clean, and clear. And by the bottom feeder professional grade battery powered vacuum system. It sucks to clean pools, so cleaning pools sucks less. Get $100 off with code DVB100.
This episode is brought to you by Skimmer, the #1 pool service software in North America. With Skimmer, you can streamline your schedule, grow your revenue, and keep your customers coming back with 5-star service. Whether you're a one-person operation or an established team, Skimmer is your partner in success. Visit getskimmer.com/poolguy to try Skimmer for free for 30 days.
The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show.
Hi, welcome to the Pool Guy Podcast Show. In this episode, I'm going to talk to you about low pH. I just did a podcast on chasing pH and also where to set the pH. But there are situations where the pH does get really low in the pool, and I'll go over some ways to raise the pH and, of course, some ways to prevent the pH from getting low in a pool. Are you a pool service pro looking to take your business to the next level? Join the Pool Guy Coaching Program. Get expert advice, business tips, exclusive content, and get direct support from me. I'm a 35-year veteran in the industry. Whether you're starting out or scaling up, I've got the tools to help you succeed. Learn more at swimmingpoollearning.com. And there are certain surface types that will allow the pH to drift down low in the pool. I'm talking about vinyl and fiberglass pools. There's not a lot of acid demand. They're basically just plastic. And so the pH tends to drift down in these pools, especially if you're using trichlor tablets in a fiberglass or vinyl pool. In fact, a lot of fiberglass pool companies will void the warranty if you're using trichlor tablets in there, if they find out you're using trichlor tablets, because the trichlor tablet has some acid in it and it has a low pH of about 2.7. So it's going to be adding acid to the water. Since the plaster pool has more of an acid demand, using tablets in a plaster pool won't usually have that effect. But if it's a small plaster pool, you may see this happen where the pH drops in a smaller plaster pool. I'm talking somewhere around 6,000 or 7,000 gallons of water. But in a vinyl fiberglass pool, you're going to see this effect almost immediately if you're using trichlor tablets in a vinyl or fiberglass pool. You'll see the pH dropping in there, sometimes to really corrosive levels below 7, 6.8. There's some times where it gets below even 6.4, 6.2 into some really corrosive territory. So to prevent that, of course, you don't want to use trichlor tablets in a vinyl fiberglass pool. If you do use them, you want to use them very sparingly. And I wouldn't mind you switching over to Cal Hypo tablets in a vinyl fiberglass pool, because the Cal Hypo tablet does not have the acid in it, doesn't have the cyanuric acid specifically, and it doesn't have a low pH. It actually has a higher pH. So you're not going to have the same effect using the Cal Hypo tablets, or you can go with a saltwater generator. That's probably your best option. With the saltwater generator, since the saltwater generator already produces high pH in a pool just by the way it generates the chlorine, it's going to have a good counter effect in a vinyl or fiberglass pool to where the pH is going to be elevated. If a vinyl or fiberglass pool gets a high bather load in it, it's going to drop the pH as well, because again, your body pH is fairly low, and since there's very little or no acid demand with that surface type, the pH is going to drift down considerably. So keep that in mind when you have a fiberglass or vinyl pool, that the pH is going to be always going on to the lower side. A small in-ground pool will also have that same effect. If you have a hot tub or an above-ground fiberglass spa, the pH tends to drift down also in those bodies of waters as well. They're usually made out of a fiberglass or a composite material. They're not plaster, of course, and so you're going to have a very low acid demand as well. And if you're using something like dichlor in there, dichlor tablets, which are pH neutral, there's a chance if you get in there with 3 or 4 people that the pH will drift down in one of those fiberglass hot tubs or spas. Sometimes even excessive rainwater. When I was a kid, we had what was called acid rain here in my area growing up in the 80s. It would be very acidic because we had really high pollution. We didn't have a lot of regulations, and in my part of California, we would have what they call acid rain. The media made a big deal out of it, but I don't think it was actually very harmful to people. They talked about like it ruining the car's paints and things like that, but mainly it would drop the pH in pools, and sometimes some heavy rain, especially if it's more acidic, can lower the pH down below 7. So keep that in mind as well, if that's a possibility. But it's typically what you're putting in the pool that causes the pH to go down. And one thing that you put in the pool often are the trichlor tablets. Another thing that you could be doing to your pool is chasing the pH, like I mentioned in the previous podcast, where you're trying to keep it in that 7.2 or 7.4 range. But in actuality, you're actually lowering the pH below that point. And this happens a lot as well when you're chasing the pH. So much so that if you have a pool where it's running at like 6 or 6.5 pH for a week or two, and you have a gas heater, there's a heat exchange in there that could be damaged, and the copper can leach out of it, and then you can have black staining in the pool plaster. Another effect as well is if you were to put trichlor tablets in the skimmer, and this is something that can damage the heater as well, because I mentioned that trichlor tablets have a low pH, so it's in the skimmer itself. Now the danger is sitting in the skimmer, and if the pool is running continuously, that's not a problem. What happens is that when the pool turns off, the weir gate will close, and then you have this small body of water. I'm going to say 2 gallons of water, roughly, maybe 3 gallons of water in the skimmer, and you have 2 or 3 tablets in there, just sitting in there. So what happens after 8 hours or 10 hours when the pool turns back on, all of that concentrated low pH water will shoot through the plumbing into the filter, through the heater, back out, and this could also damage the heater. It could cause also a burn on the return jets. I've seen this happen in pools where tablets are being used in the skimmer. The pool is again off for 10 or 12 hours and it turns on. All this concentrated acid coming out of the return line will actually start to leave a stain, and you'll see a streak, kind of like it's almost crying or bleeding out of the return line. And this is because the pH, the water that's coming out of the skimmer, is really low in pH and is actually burning and etching the plastic. And the Pool Guy Podcast Show has teamed up with UPA to bring you affordable, reliable liability insurance starting at just $64 a month. Get up to $2 million in coverage, and the members of my coaching group get an even lower rate. Protect your business and your peace of mind. Sign up with UPA today by clicking the link in the podcast description. So keep that in mind. Trichlor tablets really don't have any place in the skimmer because of that fact. The pH is too low. Now, if you're running it 24 hours a day, I was supposed to be safe to use it because you're not having any kind of concentrated buildup, but you are putting low pH water through the skimmer, through the pump, so that's probably not entirely healthy for the pool. Those inline chlorinators, if you're wondering, they're actually injecting the chlorine after all the equipment. So if you have an inline chlorinator like a rainbow or offline chlorinator, that's going onto the pool or into the pool, back to the pool after all the equipment. So after your heater, after the filter and pump. So that's not affecting any of the equipment because, again, that's after all the equipment. I did mention that low pH will have an effect on the equipment. It also have an effect on the pool surface. You may have staining, but you may have etching of the plaster. So etching is a little bit different than scale. Now, everyone's probably felt some kind of scale on a pool, and you rub your hand and it feels a little bit rough, almost like rubbing your hand on sandpaper. Now, etching is even worse than this, or it's even like almost like the polar opposite. It's not like sandpaper, it's more like a coral reef. If you ever have been in the ocean and touched like a coral reef, you see all the sharp edges, and it's something similar to that. So it's not like a buildup on the surface causing a sandpaper effect. It's actually more of a sharp, jagged effect. So when you run your hand on the plaster, it can actually be cut and start to bleed. Now, I had this pool where I was doing a bid on. I got to this pool, and the etching was so bad in this pool, and of course, there was like 2 trichlor floaters in this pool, and I could tell that the pH was just extremely low even before testing it, because when you get to the coping, and it was pretty much standard coping, but when I got to the deck and I put my hands on the deck to actually even inspect the pool, the coping itself also was sharp and jagged. So just the splash out of water and just the fact that the pH was so low in this pool for so long, not only was the plaster like running my hand over razor blades, but the actual coping itself also had that same effect. So that's called etching, and that really can't be reversed by simply changing the chemistry because the plaster is already damaged. Now, you can repair it in some instances by draining the pool and getting a power sander and kind of smoothing out the plaster. But typically, when it gets to that point where it's jagged and it cuts your hands by just touching it, you may have to replaster the pool at that point. So keep that in mind. With very low pH, that is an effect. Now, as far as a vinyl and fiberglass pool, or just any pool itself, when you're swimming in a pool at low pH, let's say the pH is at 7 or 6.8, this is really low pH for your body. Your body pH is already low to begin with, and so this is going to be even lower, and it's going to be causing some problems. You're going to have burning eyes, itchy skin, and I think we've all done it in industry. You're pouring acid into the pool, you get a little gust of wind, and a little bit of the acid water from the pool splashes on your hand, and you can start to feel your arm start to itch or your hand start to itch from that. Just that little bit of acid with water in it that gets on your hand. I'm not talking even about straight muriatic acid, but just some residue that gets on your hand. Or you're cleaning a salt cell and a little bit of the acid water mixture spills and you touch it. Same kind of burning sensation that you feel there can be what you feel in really low pH water. So I really wouldn't recommend swimming in low pH water for that burning effect, and it's going to be a problem. And if you have a pool party and there's like 20 kids in a vinyl pool, chances are the pH will drop to a level where the kids start to have burning eyes and itchy skin. It's not necessarily the chlorine causing their eyes to burn, but it's the low pH which is causing their eyes to burn in that situation. Let's talk about raising the pH. Now, to raise the pH in the pool, I talked about aeration in the previous podcast as being a problem because it keeps the pH elevated. You can actually use this to raise the pH rapidly in a pool. So if there's a water feature, or if you have an attached spa, I would say put it on spa return. That way you get the spa jets going. And if there's a spillway, the water is going to spill into the pool. Just by having that run in that mode for a day or so will raise the pH significantly. If you have water features like waterfalls, turn those on as well. It'll raise the pH quite high in a lot of cases. You can even turn the return jet so it's popping out of the water and water is kind of spraying. Get a submersible pump, put it on the first step, and then plug it in and turn it on, and the water will shoot out the top of the submersible pump, also causing a water effect kind of thing and causing aeration in the pool. And this will raise the pH. So this is something that you can do in a vinyl pool. They also sell aftermarket devices you can connect to return lines that create like a water effect. I recommend that if you have a vinyl or fiberglass pool and you want to create some aeration to kind of counter the low pH. It's going to be something that's going to be highly effective. So consider that as one way to raise the pH. Now, the old school way of raising the pH is to use soda ash. You wouldn't want to use baking soda because baking soda is technically, or sodium bicarb is technically for raising the alkalinity. It doesn't raise the pH by much at all. And so you want to use soda ash for this. Now, soda ash, in my opinion, is really messy. I don't like using it because it tends to cloud the pool up. And there can be residue from the soda ash weeks later in the pool, and the water will be milky. Even if you put the soda ash into the skimmer and it goes through the filter, a lot of times it'll overload the filter and just blow right back out the return lines. So to me, soda ash is kind of a messy way to raise the pH. Aeration is an easy way to do it without any kind of chemicals or mess. But I also would recommend 20 meal team borax. You get this at your grocery store in the laundry aisle. And I think they sell it in 4-pound boxes still. And that's the typical size box. You can check with the poolcalculator.com to see how much to add to the pool to bring your pH up. They actually have a calculation for borax, B-O-R-A-X. It's very similar to borates and boric acid powder. You can actually add borates to the pool using 20 meal team borax. So one of the great benefits of using 20 meal team borax to raise the pH in the pool is that you're adding borates to the water at the same time. So go to that calculator. In fact, I'll do a scenario so you get an idea how much borax to add to a pool if the pH is really low. And to find the poolcalculator.com app, you can go to my website, Swimming Pool Learning, scroll down to the center of the homepage. Right next to the Arenda app is going to be the Pool Calculator app. Click on that and you can download it, put it on your phone. I think there's like a $6 charge, one-time charge to buy it for your phone. So let's say you have a 15,000 gallon pool. The pH is at 6.8 and you want to bring it to 7.8. So how much borax do you need to add to the pool? Well, I put the numbers in the calculator here and it says I need to add 194 ounces or 12 pounds, which would be 3 of the 4-pound boxes. And you can add that directly into the pool or directly into the skimmer. Since it has a high pH, you can dump it directly into the skimmer, turn the pool on, let it run for 8 hours or so, and the pH will rise from 6.8 to 7.8 with 3 4-pound boxes of 20 miltene borax. And you're also adding borates to the pool at the same time. Not a significant amount, but you are adding some borates to the pool. And this is a great way to raise the pH. It doesn't really affect the alkalinity too much as well. With soda ash, you're raising both the pH and alkalinity. With the 20 miltene borax, in my testing, the alkalinity only goes up slightly, if at all, and the pH goes up dramatically. So if you're using soda ash, I would ask you to maybe give 20 miltene borax a shot. And I've had a pool pro in my group that had a vinyl pool he took over. The pH was like below 6. He was adding soda ash, just wasn't doing much to it. So I told him, add, 7 boxes of the 20 miltene borax to the pool. And sure enough, it got the pH back up above 7.8. I think it was even over 8 very rapidly. So it's highly effective, and I would recommend trying the 20 miltene borax if the pH is low in the pool and you want to raise it cleanly without clouding up the pool or causing any other problems with the pool. You don't have any way to aerate the pool, then 20 miltene borax is a great way to raise very low pH in a pool. And last, there's been some scenarios where a pool pro or someone new puts too much acid in the pool. This can happen to a homeowner as well. You're kind of trying to figure out how much acid to add to the pool and you overdo it. And this has happened to me as well. You want to counter that as soon as possible. The best way to counter, again, is with the 20 miltene borax. But if you have soda ash, of course, put that in the pool right away to counter it. Depending on how much overdose you did to the pool will require how much to counter it. So you can, again, use the Pool Calculator app to do that. You're not going to see the effects of the overdose in pH right away. So if you can counter it within the first couple hours, I would recommend doing that. Worst case scenario, you can actually just turn the pool off. And that way, that acidic water is not passing through the equipment. So if you do overdose the pool, let's say that you were going to put a quart in and you put actually 3/4 of a gallon in. So that's 3 times the amount you're going to put in there. That would lower the pH significantly to a corrosive level. You can actually just leave the pool off and then you can correct it with the borax. Come back if you don't have any product on your truck and correct that. The worst thing you can do is leave it running and let all that acidic water enter the equipment and possibly damage the heater. It could even damage the filter and other parts that have metal in it. So if that's the case, just turn everything off. The acid is going to do very little damage to the plaster itself if it's like 15,000 gallons of water. But I would definitely try to counter that as soon as you can if you have overdosed the pool with acid. And if you're overdosing the pool with tablets, because this is a smaller body of water, simply switch to Cal Hypo tablets or cut back on how much trichlor tablets you use. I find you can run into this problem if you have a small pool again, maybe 8,000 gallons or 6,000 gallons of water. Using trichlor tablets can lower that pH significantly in a small body of water. Don't see this too much in a 25,000 gallon pool unless you really load up that floater with tablets or the chlorinator with tablets. But in a smaller pool, you can definitely see the effects of the overdosing with trichlor and adding too much acid to the pool. And if you're looking for more podcasts, you can simply subscribe to my YouTube channel where I post one Monday through Friday. If you're interested in other podcasts to listen to, you can find them also on my website, swimmingprolearning.com. On the banner, there's a podcast icon. Click on that, and there'll be a drop-down menu of other podcasts for you to listen to. And of course, if you're interested in the coaching program I offer, you can learn more at poolguycoaching.com. Thanks for listening to this podcast. Have a rest of your week, and God bless. This episode is brought to you by HASA, providing products that deliver clean, healthy water for every aspect of everyday life. The bottom feeder battery-powered vacuum system, portable, powerful, and only weighs 12 pounds. And Skimmer. Get Skimmer, America's #1 pool service software. Podcast listeners can try Skimmer for free at getskimmer.com/poolguy.